name at the top. Blank sheet of paper, name at the top. Hooking each other up, I like it. Alright, when you see articles put up, articles in binders, goes in the articles portion, or you just hide it for now. You don't have to do the super file for right now. Question number 1, there it is. 1 parentheses, 1 period, whatever. I'm going to snatch this paper from you, so make it its only, not like a journal paper.
Wait, can we just answer?
Yeah. Don't have to write the question. Just 1 parentheses, answer. 1 period, answer. 1 dash, answer. I'll reveal question number 2. Still be on number 1, but here's question number 2. Three. You just cranking it out. Bam, bam, bam. Hard to get this one wrong. 1 word. A word. Multiple words, Kurt. I don't know. How would you characterize code of Hammurabi? Anybody need more time?
Yes.
Yes. 1 dominant answer. Based on the article, I would accept the second answer. Probably just
Do we need to put our names on it?
Please put your name on it. Please put your name on it. All right, honors kids, let me ask you a question. Did the fact that I said there was a reading quiz make you read the article more closely? Or would you have read the article because I gave it to you and said, and just asked you to read it?
I would have read it. I just read it. I would have read it, but
Is the quiz a bit of a driver? Like, oh shoot, there's a quiz, I better actually read this thing? I'm asking you, real asking you.
I just read it. I would read it. And then
So
read it.
Colin would have read it anyway? Kylie, would you have read it without a quiz? Read it anyway. Eric, would you have read it without a quiz?
Yes, sir.
Did Christian, did you read it more closely because there was a quiz? And? Okay. So here's my question. I'm not gonna take this up. I won't always do this whole bait and switch thing on you. I won't always do this I'm not taking it up thing. Okay, there'll be times we'll have real quizzes. But I was experimenting a little bit to see if we dug in because I said there was a quiz, or if there was a bit of a trust factor, like, hey, read this article, and you would have read it anyway. So I think there's a little bit mixed there. I do think that we all start paying attention a little bit more when there's a quiz. But we're gonna start doing at home homework. Read this the night before, and there'll be a quiz in the morning. We're gonna start doing stuff like that. I told you that during the first week. So I was just kind of doing a little honors class experiment to see what I think. I'm a little mixed here. I think a lot of you would have read the article because it's interesting. Some of you read it more closely because there's a quiz, and that's human nature. So I kind of understand that. Let's go over the answers real quick. Keep your scratch sheet paper. Okay, I'm not picking it up. Do you feel good? Do you feel proud of yourself? Do you feel like you would have? Who got 4 out of 4?
Yeah.
2 out of 4?
1 out of 4.
1 out of 4? I guess I skipped 3 out of 4. Okay. What nation was Hammurabi the king? Babylon. I would have also accepted Acadia, okay, based on the article. I mean, it definitely says he's the Babylonian king, but in reading it, it also mentioned Acadia, kind of as his hometown. How many laws were in the Code of Hammurabi? 282. I heard one more. I think most of you said it right. 282. That's a lot, but that's a lot. I shouldn't say the word but. In America, do we have more or less than 282 laws? More. Yeah, we have a lot more. In the Christian Old Testament, are there more or less? There are 10 commandments. There are 616 laws that the Hebrews had to follow. That was extra. A lot of times we think about the 10 commandments, right? So 10 commandments, 282 laws. Obviously, there's a big difference there. Number 3, so, Overthinkers Anonymous over here. We'll host a meeting later. What word best characterizes the Code of Hammurabi? Eye for an eye. Okay, that's a phrase, and that actually is one of the laws. Eric?
I say strict.
Strict. Yeah, that's kind of the lines I was going for, describing it in a single word. Anyone else have a good single word? Uptight. Okay. I have never heard that one before, but I'll buy it.
How much?
Huh?
How much you selling it? How much you buy?
Literally don't understand.
You said you buy it. How much would you pay
For a
it?
nickel. I'll buy it for a nickel.
Okay.
Keep rich from pressing.
Ooh, keeps the rich from oppressing the poor. That's a good opening thought. We'll dig into that one a little bit more. I go with harsh. Like if I were to give it one word, I'd go with pretty harsh. It's characterized as pretty harsh. And then this last question was just basically reading comprehension. What nationality was the explorer
French.
America.
who actually discovered the thing? Yeah, French. That's right. He was actually part of Napoleon's armies, part of Napoleon's conquest of the region of Mesopotamia. Turned up this actual item that we know as the Code of Hammurabi, the actual black piece of stone that it was etched into. So anyhow, that was like I said, a bit of a social experiment, trying to figure out how good of a readers we are. Do file this article, okay, under articles and reading quizzes. Articles, huh? Yeah, I'll put the nickel in a second. Your scratch sheet of paper is just a scratch sheet of paper. What I want next, and I'm going to do it at the beginning of class because I will undoubtedly forget at the end of class, I want your 5 W's and your notes for the week. Okay? Oh, and grapes. 5 W's, notes, and grapes for the week. And I'd like them in 3 different piles. Okay, so inside of your quad, 5 W's, notes, and grapes. In the future, you just got to forgive me for having a frazzled Friday morning. In the future, there will be turn-ins like already situated for you on the front table, and I'll prompt you, during the coming to class period. But it'll be on you to just turn it in. Okay. So 3 piles in your quad, 5 W's, grapes, and then notes of the week. 5 W's, grapes, and notes of the week. Notes. Yeah, notes. Notes. Okay, you know what? Hold on your notes. There's some Hammurabi questions. I get it. Hold off on your notes because there's some Hammurabi questions. Give me your 5 W's and your grapes. 5 W's and grapes. Somebody has to remind me to pick up notes later. There are? Okay. My bad. I'll hold off on all of these. Just know that I'm going to pick these up at the end of the hour. There are Hammurabi questions. What else can I do? On the grapes? Okay. Pause button. Going totally back on anything I said. I will pick these up at the end of the hour, but May Meeks is responsible for reminding me to do so. Okay? I will pick these up at the end of the hour. I will not forget. Those are famous last words, aren't they? All right, so tuck in for a little bit of learning, and then this class where we're going to get a little active. which is why I was concerned about forgetting to pick things up, because the more active we get, the more I forget things later. Let's learn about the Code of Hammurabi a little bit, and then we're going to apply it. Some of you might leave here without a hand or an eye, but I'm not responsible for that because you walked in this classroom today. Okay, it is what it is.
It's okay.
All right, this is the man Hammurabi. He was a Babylonian ruler, as you read in the article. Obviously an artist's depiction, but you know, it's the type of clothing and the type of regal setting in this picture is indicative of what Hammurabi's status would have, had for him as the king of Babylon. What do you think a good way to learn about Hammurabi would be? Like, what method should I use right here?
Wow.
His life. How do you tell a pretty good life story?
Once upon a time.
You want me to act it out?
Not much. Well, no.
I should start with once upon a time. Once upon a time, I'm going to walk you through the 5 W's of Hammurabi. That's what I was getting at, right? To tell any good story, you got to tell all 5 of the W's. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through the 5 W's of Hammurabi. Before I even start, we're going to watch this short video, and then because it shows packages a couple pictures and a couple things I just can't bring to the classroom otherwise. So we're going to watch the video, and then we're going to talk about it ourselves, and then we're going to live it out, and it's going to be a class you'll never forget. You'll never forget.
What was you finna bring?
Huh?
A dinosaur. What was you finna bring?
Finna bring?
What was you finna bring?
Fanta?
Finna.
What am I going to bring?
It's sing too.
Oh, I'm just saying the video is going to show you some pictures and just like bring it to life in a way that, the rest of my presentation. Videos are good. Watch the video.
It's too
I
long.
like Christian.
The Code of Hammurabi tells us an immense amount about Babylonian society. Much of what we have is contract law. Much of what we have is liability law. We have a lot of family law having to do with divorces, custody of children, and so forth. There's a certain amount of criminal law that survives in it. And there are even laws about the responsibility of public officials. So it gives you a picture of the details of common life on a scale that exceeds what we know about, say, ancient Athens in the 5th century BC. There are 282 laws in what survives of this diorite stele, they call it. And the laws take the form of if-then. If someone does X, then something else will happen. And so it's clearly directions for judges in how they are to dispose of particular cases. Everything that you would find in current day law is present in that. Equality, impartiality, consistency in law, damages, retribution, everything's there. The law code is really very much like a modern law code, except in one particular. It seems to be case law. Take the family law. The family law items are all grouped together. And you can see that it is a developed system. So for example, you begin with the rules for divorce. The next thing is who gets what property. Then it gets more complicated. If you have no children, who gets what property? If you do have children, who gets what property? And what it looks like is you had started off with a single principle to deal with divorce, and then judges found themselves confronted with situations where the simple application of the simple principle that they began with would produce injustice. And so what they did is they complicated it by adding, if this circumstance pertains, then the result will be this. If that circumstance pertains within a divorce, the result will be other. And the same thing is true with all the contract law. They've run into circumstances and situations that they didn't anticipate. And so what they've done is they have taken rather simple prescriptions and they've made them more complicated to fit the more complex social situations and contractual situations that they've faced. It seems to have evolved very much in the same way that the common law evolved. I think the odds are that elements in the Hammurabi Code and the very idea of having a code of laws may go back as much as 800, 900 years before Hammurabi. There are a whole series of law codes. There's one other, though, that deserves special mention, and that is the Old Testament. And if you compare the book of Deuteronomy with the Hammurabi Code, you realize there's some continuity. If a man destroys the eye of another man, they shall destroy his eye. That goes right into the Jewish law. If a man knocks out the tooth of a man of his own rank, they shall knock out his tooth. Again, that goes right in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. The Jewish people, the Hebrews, drew up their law code in a context where they were very much under the influence of the Mesopotamians. And that law code is the inspiration behind not only Jewish law, but all of the law codes that were established in Christendom, including the first law codes that were established by the English colonists who came to Massachusetts and to Connecticut. One of the things missing from the Hammurabi Code is there is no political constitution. There is no notion that there is anyone but the king who is responsible. But what there is a responsibility of the king to the gods. And there is a sense that Hammurabi is binding future kings by laying out a law code and pronouncing a curse on them if they fail to enforce these laws. You really ought to read the Hammurabi law code. It's not very long, but it gives you a sense of what all law codes must do. And you may not agree with the penalties always. The death penalty seems to be very common in the Hammurabi law code. But it addresses almost all of the crimes that we can think of in our own time.
So, Code of Hammurabi, influential today or not? Yes, how so? Appears in the Bible, okay? We are actually going to talk about extended influences in that regard a little bit as well. So, Eric, that's right. Hang on to that one. What? How else? How else is it, still relevant to the world today? Our laws are somewhat like Hammurabi's. How so? What was the shape of the laws? The actual writing followed what pattern? Huh? Cause and effect. Yep, that's right. And it's actually it's phrased with two words. If then. Yeah. You use that in math, right? You got your theorems, and corollaries. If this, then that, and sometimes it's if and only if, right? Which we actually have following How to History More Better. Observe first, then and only then. So if this, then that. And that allows for a variety of situations to be addressed very specifically. It's also a product of the idea that they started with a simple principle and then realized how many offshoots can come from that, especially in family law as related to, say, something like blended families. Husband dies first, wife dies first. They realized they could come up with what was initially a pretty simple principle had to be added to based off of circumstances. So that's why there's a whole lot of if and then. And then a big takeaway I want you to have for just this couple minutes of the video is the categories of laws. There's business law, there's family law, there's contract law. The code addresses all these major categories, as do our laws still today. And in fact, we have lawyers who are specific. They have a specialty in family law or the business law or the contract law or the criminal law, etc. So it's not it's recognizing different varieties of laws, different categories, if you will. This is the actual Hammurabi's code that was discovered. You heard him say a funny word, a diorite stele. Diorite is the type of stone. Stele means this pillar-like item. It's actually 7 feet. Let me go in order here. It was discovered in 1901 by what nationality explorer? A French explorer. I think explorer is probably the right word. Archaeologists. It was discovered in modern-day Iran. So that is the wings of the angel of the Middle East. You see how talking about geography matters? Iran is that wing portion of the angel of the Middle East. And so it's over 7 feet. And actually, this is pretty cool. There's a picture of these archaeologists at the dig site. right there. Pretty amazing, isn't it? This thing's over 7 feet tall, so I'm 6 feet. Makes this thing 7 feet tall. And you can see that the upper section shows Hammurabi standing before a sun god, the god, and this happens to be the sun god, who is seated. So there's kind of an acknowledgement of humankind's subservience to the gods. And we recognize that they worship many gods. That's called what? Polytheistic, that's right. But the idea that he's standing, that's that's reverence towards the seated or enthroned God, the sun god. So, huh? I thought it said sun god is what I've studied. Did it say the god of justice?
God of justice.
God of justice? Okay. I'll double fact check that. He might have been wrong, because I never know. Just kidding. I thought it was the sun god, god of justice. That's what happens when you got many gods. That's the complication of being polytheistic. So again, there it is. It is currently on display in Paris, okay, at the very famous museum called the Louvre. You ever watched the Da Vinci Code? That's the museum that Tom Hanks is running around in and doing all the crack the Da Vinci Code stuff. So this actual item from the BC era of time, discovered in 1901, is on display in Paris. So let's all book that trip, right on the Magic School Bus. And you can see, this is a zoom in here. What type of writing does it appear to be? Cuneiform. That's right. Wedge-shaped etchings, which we've already discussed as the writing from Mesopotamia. We believe it was written in about 1750 BC. So 1750 BC, discovered in 1901 CE or AD. I mean, this thing has been in existence for a long time. I guess they chose the right kind of stone, right? The kind of stone that doesn't crumble or fade or just mess up in any way. Again, my studying, you guys always like to put me on the spot. I got it that he was talking to the sun god Shamash, but I'll double check that one. Maybe the sun god doubled, right? He's like double polytheistic. What's that?
That's the right name.
Did it say Shamash? Okay, maybe Shamash had 2 roles. Good. I wasn't totally off. Here's what's very significant, the oldest existing surviving example of a written code of law. Now, well, we can't really know, but there are theories out there that it is not the single oldest code of law, that societies prehistory, remember, pre-written down, they were following something, right, in order to stay civil, but this is the oldest example of a written down code of law. And that's the difference between prehistory, no writing, and history. Things are finally written down and recorded. So how did they actually go about, enforcing the code or communicating the code? Well, this thing was publicly displayed. This diorite stele, it's very likely this isn't the only one that ever existed. It'd almost be like in every town square or the center of the community, they would have something like this publicly displayed so that everybody would be aware of what the code of law was. Now, what's the problem with that? Eric's right there. Can everybody truly understand what's on the etched into the stone? Because not everybody can read. There it is. I just had to rephrase my question. Publicly displayed, everybody's responsible for knowing what's on it. Not everybody can read. Therefore, who can read? Scribes, rich, educated, very few people. So, in a way, as they're interpreting this code of law, what if there was a misinterpretation? What if they chose to just falsely interpret it because they realized that most people around them couldn't read, right? So there's a little bit of a potential for corruption to happen there. What if you wanted to alter the law in a way that would make make the poor guy lose his court case, and the poor guy, what's he gonna do about it? He can't read it, right? He's trusting that you are saying it correctly. We're gonna see this as a theme across history, especially into church history, where peasants can't read and priests can, and priests are able to say what the Bible says, and the peasants just have to trust that it's right. We're going to see this again. So, great point. You all kind of said it. The rich can read, the scribes can read. That's very few people. That means that the peasants are kind of at the mercy of how they interpret it or how they translate it. The method, the model of the laws were if and then. We've already said that. Good blow up. You can see the cuneiform a little bit better. You can actually see the wedged shapedness of it. So someone put a whole lot of work into this and getting it right. And, you know, there's no eraser or backspace button when you're etching into stone. So definitely a lot of work, a lot of accuracy. Also a blow up of the top portion of it where Hammurabi is standing in reverence to the god Shamash. Here's the big takeaways. The code made everyone subject to the same laws, publicly displayed. Hey, community, this is what we agree to. However, the punishments were often scaled by social class. And some of the laws, you know, we'll read a few of them here in a second. Some of the laws distinctly applied to poor people and, you know, kind of omitted the same consequences for rich people. So we are subject to the same laws. Here's the 282 that we're going to live by, but understanding it wasn't like straight equality because there was still there's a fair amount of differences in the punishments. We're shocked by that? Are we shocked that rich people would create harsher consequences for poor people?
No.
We shouldn't be shocked by that. People in power do things to keep themselves in power, and then unfortunately for the human condition, that means oppressing people who are underneath them. Revolutionary idea here, very common to us, the presumption of innocence, right? When someone goes to trial in America, what's the phrase that we use? You are
Guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty.
there, got it. Innocent until proven guilty. Very, very normal to us. In fact, that's something that we can rest in confidently. I don't know about you. I get nightmares about getting locked up for something I didn't do. That's weird. That's weird. We should take comfort. We should rest in the idea that we go to trial innocent until proven guilty. Now, we could open the conversation to trials happening in the media or social media convicting people before there's even a trial. Right? We can open a conversation to how popular opinion may be different than a legal opinion. But legally speaking, you are innocent until proven guilty. That idea started with the Code of Hammurabi. But at the time, it was a revolutionary idea. At the time, it was very different from how punishments were being implemented on other people. It was, you stole my goat. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Punishment. So the idea that you have a right to trial, and everybody has a right to trial, no matter your social standing, that was a pretty revolutionary idea. Set rules in many areas. Kind of already discussed this: family, business, contract, crime. And we made we try to have an understanding that just like we have specialty lawyers today, a criminal attorney, a contract attorney, a real estate attorney, someone that deals with lawsuits, someone that deals with the death penalty, right? Specialties in law kind of comes about from the Code of Hammurabi in the first place. And then more than just having what is against the law, it also offers the consequences for that law. So, I mean, it may be one thing to say, thou shalt not steal, using some 10 Commandments there, right? The law being don't steal, the Code of Hammurabi specifically states what is the consequences for these various infractions. And again, there's like a whole bunch of offshoots once they started to realize all the variables that could possibly happen. Any questions on the Code of Hammurabi?
No, maybe.
Yeah, you got it? Is this new information to you? You're like, wow, I really learned something today?
Yes, I learned something.
What you got? Who was Hammurabi? Babylonian king.
Yes.
King of Babylon, creator of... So on your notes, let's tidy up your notes here. Some of you did it before we got to this class. Some of you waited till we're here, and that's fine. Who was Hammurabi? King of Babylon. You could elaborate to say what else? Like, what's he really responsible for? The inventor of the Code of Hammurabi is the word that, who's knows that, right? Ray used, the creator, the founder, the author of the Code of Hammurabi. What is the Code of Hammurabi?
It is the
Set of rules. Great example. Great way to say that. Set of rules. The earliest code of law, the earliest written down code of law. What types of laws, major categories were included in the Code of Hammurabi? Family.
crime.
Contract, business, crime. I think those are the ones that we're going for. And then This is just a memorized facts type of thing. How many laws were in the Code of Hammurabi? 282. I always remember that because in the Army, I was in 3rd Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division, which we called ourselves 382. So I kind of just take one number off of that, 282. That's really memorable to me because in the 82nd Airborne Division, 82 was everything. Like, you'd set the thermostat to 82 degrees just because it was 82. So 282, that's easy for me to remember based off of the 82nd Airborne Division. It is hot. Yeah, it is hot. Paratroopers are stupid. They do dumb things just because. Cool. Let's do this. Let me now. Do you have more to do on your stuff, or did you get tidied up? Huh? Not of Egypt. Just the grapes of Mesopotamia, not of Egypt. Do you have more to do, or can I collect it?
No.
I can collect it?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna collect most of them, and then those of you that care to keep a page, I'm just gonna keep it as or you gotta get that to me. Let me collect this. We'll go to the bathroom. We'll come back to an activity where some of you are gonna lose your hands. All right. All right, after I have your table stuff, you can head to the bathroom and start making walks.
My job.
I will remember you.
What? I will run you over. What happened? I will run you over. So what?
What'd you say?
No. Nobody.
Yes. If you're done.
I'm not good now.
Wait, hold on. Which one goes?
I'll take grapes.
I set up a multiple choice answer for the head of the temple.
Okay.
And then mom couldn't remember. And
Okay.
I started with, actually, I'm writing down on my papers. I started with Aztec, and she answered D, which was Olmec, which is correct.
Excellent, Trinity. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm surprised.
Christian, what we got going on? What's going on?
Making sure I have everything.
Okay, that's a good thing to make sure of. Come on, buddy, let's go.
Okay, Mom. I want to.
Now this stretch. Where's the lights on?
Where's the light?
Madison, get the lights for me.
Oh, no.
We got hairband.
Yeah, I got
Yeah, please, please. Hey! Welcome to the court of Hammurabi. Draw near all ye, make a play that ye shall be had. We are going to play a game that I like to call the court of Hammurabi. You have entered the court of Hammurabi. Some of you will now leave, but I'm not in charge of that. The code of law is. Hand your page here. We're about to go through 6 situations that were related to laws in the code of Hammurabi. So these are 6 laws that were stated in the code of Hammurabi in a scenario format. And here's you're a flirt.
Already beat
So the magical sorting hat, Harry Potter style, is going to choose the participants of each situation. I'm going to pull a name for the prosecutor. I'm going to pull a name for the defense attorney. I'm going to pull a name for he or she who is accused. If you look at the table up here, you'll see the defense attorney will come sit here. The prosecutor will sit here. And the accused will stand constrained and humbly respectful for the process right here. The accused. I want you to hands in front of you, bound, or hands behind you, bound. You are on the chopping block. You better hope that you got a good lawyer. So, what are you going to write on this sheet? You're probably wondering, what are you going to write on this sheet? When I show you situation 1, it's going to give you the scenario, okay? When I show you situation 1, it's going to give you the scenario. And in the first block, I want you to write down, I think a fair law would be, fill in your own thoughts, right? Or you could maybe say, I think fair punishment would be. I want you to write what you think is reasonable for the situation at hand. Then I'm going to reveal on the screen what the code actually says. I want you to just jot that one down, verbatim, right? You can't get that one wrong. You can't really get anything wrong. Just got to bring your effort. And then 3, on the last block, my reaction to the code is. So what you think is reasonable, what the code actually says, and then your reaction to what the code is. Too easy, too harsh, just right. That's how I would do it. I don't know, maybe they should chop off both hands. Whatever your reaction is, okay? Now, in between, the defense attorney, this is when I've revealed the situation. The defense attorney is going to defend his clients. Okay, you're going to make a case for a minimum punishment. Maybe you're going to say he's not guilty. Maybe you're going to say, yeah, he's guilty, but a minimum punishment should be. You're going to make a case for a minimal punishment. Prosecutor, you're going to make a case for a maximum punishment based on the scenario. The accused, you're going to have to account for yourself. You're going to have to try to give some evidence that says you didn't do it, or maybe apologize, or you're just going to have to account for the situation at hand. Okay, no whining, no groveling. Be a man or a woman, and take responsibility for what you may have done. Do we understand the game? Do we understand the scenario? Okay. I'll decide how many times it is. I think it's 282 times. All right. All right. First, now I understand we got a lot of people absent, so if it's a name that's not here, I'm just gonna chuck it out. The first accused defendant in the court of Hammurabi is Colin. Colin. Give him snaps for Colin. Snaps for Colin. Actually, I think we should boo the accused.
Yeah, I was gonna
Boo! Boo. Okay. So you are the court of Hammurabi. You are in shackles. You are shackles. Don't make me get him out. The first your defense attorney is, drum roll please. Mimics. Defense attorney. How do you feel? How do you feel right now about your defense attorney? A little concerned? I would be. All right, and your prosecutor. Drum roll. Allie, not here. Kylie, defense attorney. Woo! Is she gonna get you off? Is she gonna get you out of jail? Out of the problem? Okay. All right. Scenario. Scenario. No, hey, I have zip ties in my backpack right now. I do it. Situation 1. You are a carpenter who's built a house. It has fallen and killed the owner. So Colin is a carpenter. He built a house. The house fell and it killed the owner of the house. What then should be done to a carpenter who built a house that falls and kills the owner? Defense attorney, defend your client.
See, no.
Killed owner.
Technically, it's not his fault.
Cut off his hands so he doesn't have to do anything.
Technically, it's not his fault. He's not responsible for the nails and the shingles and the beams.
It could have been something the owner did. Manslaughter.
Manslaughter.
All right, so recommend a consequence.
Wait, what state are we
Was
in?
there a storm or did
Recommend a consequence for
We're in Texas. Automatic guess.
for a minimum. Recommend a minimum consequence. Community service? Community service? Okay, your defense attorney has recommended community service for you. What do you think about that? I mean, you did build the house and it did fall. It killed a man. Killed a man. Okay, hang on. You'll get your chance. You'll get your chance. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey. You? I got 5.
Shake them.
I'll put his head. My mask there.
You got some duct tape.
That's what the mask
What's all
is.
that? Use some tape.
Oh, that's it.
Shove it in his mouth.
All right. Well, Colin is responsible for this. I was only going to have you. Handcuffs. This is the most 2020 thing I've ever seen. All right, prosecutor, make a case for a maximum sentence.
Maximum. Okay. You killed a person, so you deserve
There's an
to be put to
earthquake.
death. You deserve to be put to death for killing someone else.
Whoa, we got Okay, so check it out, defendant, who's about to be shackled to the chair. You have between community service and death on the line here. What do you say for yourself?
Earthquake.
Okay, he's saying that an earthquake made the house crumble, right? It is not his responsibility. It's not his responsibility as the house builder. Let's see what the code of Hammurabi said. Drum roll. Hammurabi's code: if a builder builds a house for someone who is not constructed properly, the house which involves fields that kills the owner, that builder shall be put to death. So, what you would now write is Hammurabi's code says the builder will be put to death. You can abbreviate that statement right there, okay? And then I want you to give your reaction. Now, in this first block, you don't have to have agreed with the prosecutor or the defense attorney, right? Do your own
He
thinking.
broke out. He broke it out.
Do your own thinking, and then give your reflection. Give your reflection on what the code says. Now, is this similar to any American code of law?
Yes.
If a builder is responsible for flawed building and somebody dies inside of that building, would the builder be put to death? We wouldn't call that a capital offense, right? We would agree that's harsh. We might call it manslaughter. We might call it neglect. All right, so write your responses. All three of you. Good job. Well done.
There's an
Take your seat. Back to
earthquake.
your seats. Good job. Well done. Back to your seats. Hey, defense and prosecution attorney, and as you come up, if you want to bring your sheet, that's fine. Or you can just remember the situation and fill it out as you go. Who's ready for situation number 2?
Me.
Ready for situation number 2? All right. The accused. Who's ready to be accused? Drum roll, please. Drum roll. Shayla is accused. I wonder what she did. We got to find out. All right. Your defense attorney. Are you nervous about who your defense attorney is going to be? I would be.
Just don't.
I'm looking. Don't look at Christian. Christian! It's definitely. Come on up, Christian.
What am I?
Her defense
I
attorney.
want to be prosecuted.
How are you feeling about your defense attorney?
You're
Yes,
fired.
that's all.
You're fired.
You're gonna defend yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, since she fired me, I want to be her prosecutor. Can I be hired?
Yes! Now you're your prosecutor.
Yeah.
No, you're keeping
And your defense attorney is. Your defense attorney's not here. Madison, come on up. Woo! All right, so we see how it's working. I'm not going to be so lengthy on each one. Here's the situation. You ready? Here's the situation. Jayla is respecting the courts by confining her hands behind her back. Situation number 2. What should happen to a girl who slaps her father?
Oh, that's
Girl,
harsh.
now
yourself.
the code is very patriarchal, right? So it's related to male dominatedness. But the code is about a boy, but Jayla's up here, we'll make it a girl. What should happen to a girl who slaps her parents? What should happen to a girl who slaps her parents? Yes, I do. All right, so take a few seconds to jot down what you think. What should happen to a child who slaps a parent? Take the gender out of it. Child who slaps a parent.
Wait, actually, that's the problem. This is a female.
A child who slaps a parent. That's what we're going to make it into be, okay? What should happen to a child who slaps a parent? You should be ashamed of yourself, young lady. You should definitely be ashamed of yourself. Now, are you forming a defense? Are you forming a prosecution? You wanna? Whoa.
What?
Nope. Rewind. Not that one. Put that one back in the box.
I want to hear
I wanna
about
go over here.
that.
You want to hear about my situation?
I'm gonna let, in this case, I'm gonna let the defendant speak for herself first. Defendant, what do you have to say for yourself?
So I just make up a scenario where I slap her.
Please do. Like,
Um,
way less crazy than what you just said.
like, I'll get beat or something.
Oh, she does have a defense for herself. She was getting beat.
Yeah.
She slaps her parent.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the circumstances of the case. Prosecutor, what do you have to say for a maximum punishment?
Hold up, there's something I would like to ask first.
There
Why
always
was
is.
why was he beating him? Tell me
He
that.
was drunk.
Why was he drunk?
Because he's an alcoholic.
Why is he an alcoholic?
Christian, make it.
Because he sat
Hey, hashtag you're not a lawyer. Make a case for say what the maximum punishment should be.
Maximum punishment for slapping her father.
Parent.
Hey, or my mom. No, I would never slap my mom. You can say father.
So it got spicy.
Okay. I would give her. She has to get slapped by 100 people every single day
Ooh, okay. For how many days? Be specific here.
for the rest of her life,
Slapped by 100 people
as hard as they can.
every single day for the rest of her life.
A
slap for a slap, right? That's keeping in line with code. All right, defense attorney, what do you? How do you defend your client, and what should a minimum punishment be?
She was defending herself, so no punishment.
Okay, so we have between this crazy scenario punishment and no punishment. She has spoken for herself. Man, she went from hand shackled to hands on hips. Her body posture has changed. All right, so the code of Hammurabi says what should happen to a boy who slaps his father. Remember, we said a child who slaps a parent. Hammurabi's code: if a son strikes his father, his hand shall be hewn off.
That's what
Off with your
said.
hands.
Yay.
Off with your
Go.
hands.
She's guilty.
What do you think about that?
So
So the answer is that the child's hand should be cut off.
she's getting sued.
Somewhat. You're suing your defense attorney. She didn't do good enough.
Hey, can I cut her hands off?
You could say.
Shut up.
Hey, all right, good job, all y'all. Go ahead and take a seat.
I
Good
didn't
job.
put
Go
my
ahead and
put
take
a
a seat.
hand in your throat.
Yeah, you could say
How you
that
gonna do it with your
punishment
hands?
is a crime, right? Because it's a hand-related crime. I think our general reaction here is that that's pretty harsh. Like I said, some of you might not leave with all your body parts. Jayla, you just didn't know it was going to be you and your hand.
What do I think my hands for?
Hey, she tried to
Take a
get
few seconds to
someone
write down her answer on that one.
So she's even more guilty now.
All right. Our next accused shall be. Yeah, not here. Our next accused shall be
Should be you.
Lily. Lily is accused. Man, I wonder what it might be for.
For death.
Her defense attorney is, drum roll please, drum roll, drum roll. Ray, defense attorney Ray.
Right, big heart.
I think you got a pretty good defense attorney.
Yeah.
Prosecutor shall be.
Yeah.
Excuse you, you're accused of something. Yeah, like this. There it is, there it is.
You look like you've done this before.
Definitely getting some novelty handcuffs. And your prosecutor is Joseph Smith. Joey. All right. I'm going to give you a chance to admit to what you did before I even tell you what you did. What'd you do? Tell me what you did. She killed somebody. She killed somebody. So here's scenario 3. Ready for it? Here's scenario 3.
And catch that.
What should be done about a wife who ignores her duties and belittles her husband?
That and now killing someone else.
Bad wife. Okay. Ignores her wife's duties, belittles her husband. What do you have to say for yourself?
I didn't want to get married in the first place.
She didn't want to get married in the first place. Okay, there's a lot of culture being drawn into that. Okay. Defender.
Make him a sandwich.
You said she didn't want to be married in the first place.
But she is.
So I think the husband should have to go to jail for force.
So he's gonna flip the script and put the husband in jail.
The husband didn't do
Okay, I've
anything.
never seen that one before. All
Husband
right,
didn't do anything.
all right, Joseph Smith. What could a maximum punishment be?
Death.
She ignored her duties and made fun of her
Why
husband.
you say that?
She called him a meanie.
is. Put her under house
What
arrest.
do they say in Elf? Nitty Muggins?
Cotton.
Cotton-headed nitty muggins. She called him a cotton-headed nitty muggins. Unacceptable. Maximum
Cut off
punishment.
her
What do you
tongue.
think?
Cut off her tongue. So she can't talk.
What Christian say?
Cut off her tongue. She
Cut
can't
out her
talk.
tongue. Belittled her husband. You use your tongue to do it. So gonna cut off your tongue so you can't do that again. All right. Do you have your scenario written down? You have what you think a fair law would be? You ready to see what Code of Hammurabi says?
Oh, yeah.
Drum roll, please. If the woman has not been careful but has gadded about, neglecting her house and belittling her husband, they shall throw that woman into the water!
Yeah!
Walk the plank. Walk the plank.
Outside.
How'd they come up with that? That is. What did Christian do? Christian, reenactment.
No, read it again.
Throw that woman into the water!
Yeah!
All right, so write down what the code says.
It's like
Throw the woman into the water. It's saying if she's guilty of that, she shall be thrown into the water. Fancy language. And then write your response to that. I mean, you can't say it's not creative.
Yay!
It's kind of related to all that was going on.
Well, can they swim or can they not swim?
No, they're
Yeah,
hands
I
tied.
can.
Their hands are-
It never said that.
Well, it never did say that.
Swim.
They probably filled your mouth up with cyanide.
Do we see the variety of scenarios here? We have family law, we have criminal law, we have, the builder, kind of a blend between criminal and contract law a little bit here.
Yeah, there's earthquake.
Yeah, all right, there's an earthquake. You're gonna carry that one for a while, aren't you?
Yeah.
Our next accused
I'll be back.
member of the class is. Who should it be? 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 Jordan Garner!
Yeah!
Look
Kill
all over
her.
the room, and then I'll look back. All right, who do you want your defense attorney to be?
Me.
Who do you want your defense
You want
attorney
me?
to be?
I can let me
Oh,
good.
you're the one who said that was fair.
Okay, that's who it's not gonna be. Your defense attorney is Maria. Defense. And your prosecutor responsible for putting you in jail, maybe the gallows, who knows, is
Jackson.
Jackson.
There's actually
Are you clairvoyant? That was a little extra there.
I feel like
All right.
it should be switched.
Scenario. Excuse you. Humble
Jordan,
yourself
you're dead.
before the court. Scenario. What should be done to the woman who cannot pay her debts? She has swiped that credit card at TJ Maxx over and over and over. She's as my wife says, she's a Maxinista. My wife said, I'm gonna go break the bank at TJ Maxx.
right.
This is a real scenario. You have, how many credit cards do you have? 49? I heard 49.
69.
The evidence says 49.
So make that
49. 49. She just admitted to it. All right. So, defense attorney, your client has just admitted to having debt and not being able to pay it. It's not a question anymore. What should her consequences be?
Why would you say that?
The worst.
She should get a job
She should get a job and what?
and pay her debts, and not she will go to jail for a month.
Okay.
Mom.
Yes, a
That
month.
is a well-crafted
Yes.
agreement, right?
Yeah.
So the defense attorney didn't just say, let her off. That's a fair well-crafted possible middle ground.
A month.
From the prosecutor, I get this.
Put her in the gallows.
Prosecutor, what do you think should happen? Can't pay her debts, financial related, what we got?
Or that
Forced labor, for who? For who? For who? For her, for how long? Till she pays back the debt, so till she pays back 98 credit cards. Because you have 49, so you gotta pay back 98 credit cards.
Actually, it was 3 times.
It should be 3 times? Yeah, but hashtag you're not the lawyer right now, so. All right, let's see, so write down what you think a fair law would be, right? Here's the scenario, debtor, right? It's a man or woman who cannot pay their debts. What is a fair situation for a debtor? You can't reach your reaction.
I like slaves.
Okay.
All
right. Code of Hammurabi says, drum roll please. And it shall be adjudicated. If anyone is unable to pay a debt to their creditors, he shall sell his wife, son, or daughter and give them over to service. For 3 years they shall work in the houses of their purchaser. In the 4th year they shall be given their freedom. So adjudicated. You don't have to pay back your debts. Your family has to pay back your debts for 3 years of service.
Oh,
Boom!
non-prayers gonna be
So spoken.
Can you paraphrase that?
Yes, her family has to pay back her debts for 3 years. Not her, but her family. So, you think that you might be motivated to not become a debtor if you knew that your family was going to be in trouble, not just you? Yeah, be a servant for 3 years there.
I'm telling Riley.
All right, what we got? 2 more? 2 more? We're cranking.
Cranking 90s
Okay,
all day.
I need a new defendant. The accused shall be.
I'm gonna be dead.
Everybody's name is in here once. Eli, come on
Yeah.
up. Number 69 in your program, number 1 in your hearts. Eli. Goliath people.
Great.
Who do you want your defense attorney to be?
Me.
I was kind of hoping Kurt. I mean,
Okay, that's
No,
who it's
I
not
wanna
going
be
to
the
be.
prosecutor.
It's not going to be.
I want to be
TJ, defense attorney, come on up. And your prosecutor shall be Kurt. You wanted to be your defense attorney. So, okay, prosecutor. Hands. Hands. Mr. Griffin.
Kill him. Cut off his mouth.
he said Mr. Kurt.
All right.
Mr. Griffin, you have it.
Mr. Griffin, here is the scenario. Actually, I should say Dr. Griffin. Dr. Griffin, what happens if a nobleman dies during surgery? So now, Dr. Griffin here
Take out all the
is
swords.
well educated. He's skilled. He is doing something that helps the community. And in performing surgery, a rich man who is his patient dies. Did you do the best you could? Did you do the best you could? He did the best he could, but the nobleman still died. What kind of surgery was it?
Brain leg surgery.
Okay, so he admits to doing surgery. He definitely admits to doing the surgery. He admits to doing the surgery. It was leg surgery. What else do you have to say for yourself? What do you think the punishment should be for the nobleman dying under your care?
Nothing. It wasn't my fault.
Nothing. It wasn't your fault. What happened?
That's a lie.
In medical terms, tell us what happened.
You just got up and walked away, and I was like, you can't walk, so you not walking.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so he's a bad patient. Okay, defense attorney, what do you think a minimum punishment should be for this crime? Like, the guy did die. He was under the care of Dr. Griffin. What should a minimum punishment be?
Why didn't you strap him down so he couldn't get up?
I think minimum punishment should be small jail time.
How small?
5 years.
How small of a jail time?
69.
Just under a year.
I think
Just under a year, so
11 months.
364 days.
Rather that a life.
And your community, what kind of community service? Can he keep being a doctor? He's a bad doctor. He kills noblemen. All right.
Kiss me the
A year of jail, a year of jail and some community service from his defense attorney. What should the maximum punishment be?
Okay, so, yeah. He's gonna have one of his hands cut off.
One hand cut off,
And he's gonna
Definitely
be
not-
sold into slavery.
sold into slavery with one hand. So he's like a
That's
useless
a lot.
slave. Like, definitely not a doctor anymore.
Take out
You
his
just going for
hands.
it? You just going for it? All right, let's see. Let's see what the Code of Hammurabi says. What should happen if a nobleman dies during surgery? What should happen to the doctor? The answer is, if a doctor makes a large incision with an operating knife and kills a nobleman, opens a tumor with the operating knife and cuts out the eye of a nobleman, the doctor's hand shall be hewn off. So Kurt was on the right track, right? We were recognizing the principle of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, or in this case, a hand for a hand. So there's a lot of extra in there, right? There's a lot of ifs. Do you see how they came up with there's a whole bunch of ifs for each scenario? But the big idea y'all can take away is that the doctor, who was doing the best he could as a member of his community, right? He didn't have to be a
The
doctor,
jury has something to say.
but he gets his hand cut off. What do you have to say,
I
Jerry?
just say y'all need to watch Grey's Anatomy because y'all know nothing about
Yeah, Meredith Gray wouldn't have any hands or feet anymore. She's killed so many patients.
Not
Actually,
Grace
she
Anatomy
went
ain't a good one.
A being when Derek
That
left,
one's too
and she
informal.
had like 87
House
surgeries
is
that
better.
nobody died.
House
And
is
then he
better.
came back and somebody died.
I watched Grace. I get it. The rest
You watched Grace?
House is better.
Yeah, we see.
All right, one more. We got one more.
I wanna be dead.
Christian, you've already been. Like, literally, your name is on the floor right now.
Well, put it back in the hat.
One more defendant. Who shall it be?
Me.
Hair on the tongue's the worst. Not Brecken.
Me.
Fabian, come on down. You've been accused of something. Your defense attorney shall be.
Right.
Trinity! Trinity as a defense attorney. And your prosecutor is Delaney. 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 Hopefully they didn't get called up. I apologize. We'll get you in the next activity. All right. All right. So, scenario number 6. Doing good on time.
Death penalty.
Fabian, you're accused of robbery. This is a pretty simple one, right? This is an action. This is a crime that is still prevalent today. This is a crime that is still in society today. So, Fabian, accused of robbery. Fabian, what did you steal? He admits to stealing candy from a baby. Defense attorney, what do you have to say for your client?
He has to deal with 10 children.
He's guilty. What should the minimum punishment be? Well, make a case for a light punishment. It's just candy. He didn't really mean it. He didn't hurt anyone else. Like, what should a low level punishment be? Pay double the amount back. How much was candy? Like $0.50. So paying $1 back. That's double. Paying $1 back. Okay. Prosecutor. This man has no respect for the rule of law. Doesn't matter how small the theft was. He doesn't have any respect for the rule of law. What's a maximum punishment?
You are a young adult. You should have the death penalty.
Woo! Take him off the streets, get him out of society. Code of Hammurabi says, if anyone is caught committing robbery, he shall be put to death. Yes, ma'am. Greetings, welcome.
Yeah, I can't pass by when I'm your
So thank you for attending the court of Hammurabi. This concludes today's proceedings. Those of you missing body parts may collect them at the door. Those of you sentenced to death shall take a hard right to the death chamber. This is what we've agreed to in society. All right, so, Christian, take back to your seat. Have you completed the Court of Hammurabi page? Do we have everything filled in? Especially those of you that were participating, make sure you don't leave a blank just because you were participating. Colin is still insistent that he's not responsible for the building collapsing because he's the architect.
Yeah, retrial.
So what is your overall impression of the Code of Hammurabi at this point? Too harsh?
I feel it.
You appeal? Yeah, there was an appeals process.
Yeah,
Now, how would it affect your behavior or your adherence to a code of law? You'd be moving civilizations. I'm gonna move on over to Egypt because I'm not staying in Mesopotamia. Delaney's like, this is my life. I shall commit no crimes. I shall not participate in life so that I can't get in trouble.
Exactly.
Anyone else? What other impressions? Do you think you'd follow the law?
No.
No.
Because the punishments are so harsh, like, is it worth even flirting with breaking the law? Fabian, would it be worth grabbing that candy bar?
Yeah. Death penalty.
Yeah, death penalty for a candy bar. Was it worth it?
I said that.
So here's the takeaway, guys. You would people of this civilization. Okay, so hey, I amped you up. Let me bring it back down, make that final point, okay? You would be most likely to adhere to the law because the consequences were so harsh. Now, across time, and as we grow in our understanding of human rights and civil living, we, like all of people, tend to agree that the Code of Hammurabi was too harsh. Simple robbery doesn't warrant what we call capital punishment or death. Let's make, I told you I'd get to this, let's make a couple more comparisons, or rather see some influences from the Code of Hammurabi. We recognize, and we've already said it in this class, we recognize that the Old Testament's 10 Commandments, or the book of Deuteronomy in the Bible, outside of just the 10 Commandments, has a lot of similarities to the Code of Hammurabi. So here's some direct comparisons. The code says anyone that commits robbery shall be put to death. That's the scenario Fabian just had. The Old Testament says thou shalt not steal. All right, so we have a similar principle. You shouldn't steal. It's not good to steal things from other people. Code of Hammurabi. This is a family law situation. Someone who wishes to separate from a woman who has borne him children, or separate from his wife who has borne him children, shall give that wife back her dowry, that's money, and part of the use of his field, his garden, his property, so that she can rear the children. Basically, it's saying that just because the man wants to divorce his wife, he still has to take care of his children. What's that similar to in our society today? Child support. So we see a principle of child support in the Code of Hammurabi. Check this out. The Quran, what religion follows the Quran? Reads the Quran? Islam. Okay, so don't say I'm just talking about the Bible. We're going to talk about all texts. The Quran says those who die and leave their wives shall provide support for their wives for a year, provided they stay within the same household. So a similar concept of child support. Code of Hammurabi, Quran. One more. Code of Hammurabi says if a man puts out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out. We commonly rephrase that as an eye for an eye. The Bible in the Old Testament says, if any harms follows, you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. So we see a similar principle in the Christian Old Testament, the Jewish Old Testament as well. Check this out. This is Hammurabi. This is a little profile view, right? I showed you the picture that kind of showed a similar hat and the regal beard and all that kind of stuff. This picture is in the United States House of Representatives chamber right now. So in our own lawmaking chamber, what we really value, our Congress, obviously that is where we get our laws from. They have the man, an image of Hammurabi to look at to remind them what the original code of law looked like. Another is that this is on the Supreme Court. I'm just going to highlight here. The Supreme Court has dozens of ancient lawmakers decorating the inside of the chamber of the Court of Hammurabi. And we can see several others. Moses, Solomon, we touched that. Muhammad, Charlemagne, King Louis IX. These are all famous lawmakers, also including Hammurabi. Did you know that? You know that? I bet you didn't know that. So our House of Representatives, that's Congress, and the Supreme Court acknowledges the cultural significance of this ancient Code of Hammurabi. And then that's a little bit of a blow up. Hammurabi standing right next to Moses with his tablets of the 10 Commandments. These two ancient lawgivers are standing right next to each other. So, something about, let me set up this scenario before I already showed you the slide a little bit. Something about the Code of Hammurabi is that it was for all people. However, the punishments were different based on social class. Do we have laws that subject different social classes to different punishments today?
Yes.
No, yes, no.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we are confused, and I love that. Our laws, I think we would agree that our laws should have an equal application. But in reality, so whether you're the president, a celebrity, an athlete, or a high school teacher, or a homeless person, right? Let's just the spectrum of social prestige, influence, income, whatever. We should agree that our laws have an equal application. But do they?
No.
What's a scenario where laws don't have an equal, where can you point to where a law hasn't been applied equally from a famous person to a regular person?
A priest.
A what?
A priest.
How so? Or priest?
I ain't gonna say.
Any priest.
What are you saying? Priests get away with things?
I guess you could say
Okay. Eric, you want to add to that?
I said, some priests, like in Canada, I know some priests are
that. Well, that's.
trial. They're trial. I used to influenced by the media.
Influenced by the media. Ooh, there's a big idea. Okay, Eric, that's good thinking. And you're talking about Catholic priests and recent trials and stuff like that. Okay, I'm familiar with what you're saying.
Except molesters.
For the molestation, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Okay, good example. Jayla? Cops, how so? Are they, do they receive harsher punishment or less harsh punishment? Less harsh? You think that sometimes cops are protected, even if they commit a crime, it's gonna get swept under the rug? Okay, I'm just paraphrasing in your own words.
Yeah, just like George Floyd.
Okay, this is a real scenario. Anyone else? How about this one? So this, what I'm about to show you, it couldn't have happened any more perfectly last year. Like literally, we had this class about Dakota Hammurabi, and then this was in the news that very day, the very next day, so I was able to share with my class. How about this? In New York City, the state of New York, there are very, very strict laws about a year ago coming into New York and needing to quarantine, COVID and all that, right? So if you were going to travel to New York, you had to quarantine for 14 days prior to, unless you were a Hollywood star going to the VMAs. Stars attending the VMAs from out of state will not be subject to the New York quarantine mandate. Fair or unfair? Yeah, right? Because that makes the social classes. Oh, but you're coming to the VMAs, and the VMAs make us a lot of money, and you're famous, and we recognize who you are, so you're not subject to the same quarantine mandate. An example of a law being unfair. Now on the right, Aunt Becky just gets me every time. Lori Loughlin, U.S. actress, jailed over college admissions scandal. Equal application of the law or not? This one is a yes. It was an equal application. A lot of people expected she would get off scot-free. What she did was lied to get her daughter into the University of South California, USC. I don't know why you'd ever lie to go to that college. I digress. She lied. From a legal perspective, she lied. It was fraud. There was bribery involved. A lot of people expected her, even though she was kind of taking her lumps in the media, like Eric mentioned the media, a lot of people expected her to not go to jail. Kind of just get off because it was a minor crime. It wasn't that big of a deal. Homegirl went to jail, just like you or I would have. So there's an example of an equal application of the law, even though she had fame, even though she has notoriety in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff to her name.
Is she still in jail?
I think it was like 90 days, so it was a tiny jail sentence, but she didn't. It didn't get swept under the rug, and that is good for our justice system. Ms. Martin, always welcome. Mrs. Martin was the defendant who got thrown into the water last year. She was the woman who gadded about her husband and got thrown into the water.
I did. Yeah.
Unforgettable. Thank you for coming in.
Where did you come in?
Huh?
Where did you come in?
When we were transitioning a little bit. I think it's during Fabian's last little tomfoolery. Okay, so, all right. So that's a wrap on this class, this lesson. That's a wrap on Mesopotamia. Next week, we will be jumping into Egyptian culture. We're gonna spend a whole week on Egypt, okay? We got some learning to do, and we got some fun activities on the horizon as well. So we will talk about the things that are obvious, such as pharaohs and pyramids, right? The things that you probably know. We will talk about a lot of things you don't know about Egyptian culture as well. So be prepared to giddy up for the learning. This is an activity, yes. And May, what are you supposed to remind me of? If anybody still has any of these three items, I will be taking them. Okay? Good morning! Good morning! And that'll be our punctuation mark. That'll be our end point.
Where do we need to put this? What do I have?
Activities.